Here we are up at the top here, looking at that passenger side exhaust manifold, and this is what we're dealing with. We've got all these hoses, we've got that heat shield in the way, and you cannot see where that connection is to the exhaust pipe. I'm going to try and remove this heat shield. I'm going to see if that's going to help. No matter where I put this camera, we cannot see that flange where it's going to mount to the exhaust pipe there, but it is in the back down here, and with that heat shield gone, you might be able to fit your hand in there. I don't think you're going to be able to see it, but you might be able to get it with your hand. And this is what we had to go through to get that heat shield off. So these two bolts here came off fine. This one here, the nut is seized. So this is the back bolt closest to the firewall. You can see where the nut is pinched and seized, holding that heat shield together. So basically we had to cut it off, as this was all coming out in one piece. So I just got some side cutters there. I cut as much of it off as I could, and then I used the pliers to kind of work the metal and break it free from the end, and then screw that out of there. Our first problem was our T-bolts will not fit in with this exhaust because there's no room to get the T-bolt in from here. So it won't fit in there, and then trying to trim it down will then make it ineffective. You can't get it. There won't be enough threads on the bottom for you to put a nut on. T-bolt is basically, you throw that in there, anti-rotation device, it hangs out, and then all you got to do is throw your nuts on the bottom and then tighten them up, and life is supposed to be a little better for you. But we can't do that on this side because of the design of the exhaust manifold for the passenger side. So what they have for a factory option is a nut with like a piece of metal that's tacked to it somehow, and that's an anti-rotation device. But the problem is that you've got to hold that nut up here while you're threading your bolt in. That's easier said than done, and that's on both sides here. So I mean, let's just take a look inside. So down in here we've got all our hoses, right? We've got air conditioning hoses in the way. We've got limited access to try and get in here and do what you need to do. And also, when I removed that exhaust manifold, I had to remove it out the bottom because it is not going to come out through the top here. One of the things I tried doing was removing the heat shield in an attempt to get better access at trying to get at that nut from the top. But there again, how are you going to hold the nut from the top and then put the bolt in from the bottom, right? It's kind of a impossible situation that you're dealing with here. So our plan is that we're going to replicate this connection here, same as over there. We're going to put another one here. This will be adjustable now, so when this fits onto the driver's side exhaust, you can fit it properly, and then fit this side properly, and then you can finally put that connection together. So these two pipes will go where they want to go, and then you finish off with that connection. What we did was we made our connection there. It's all loose. We're going to fit it up first, and then if we have to adjust it, then we can break the tacks, adjust it, and tack it all into place, and then take it out and then finish weld everything. We're going to have our T-bolts coming from this side on the driver's side here, and then on this side, as we were explaining, we couldn't fit our T-bolts in for this exhaust manifold here. So what I ended up doing was I just welded some nuts on there because there's limited space in here. So I just welded some nuts on both sides there, and I just tried on this boss here. I just tried a little bit of weld on there. Seemed to be pretty good, so I welded those nuts on, and now we'll use them bolts there, and it'll just thread up in there. You don't have to worry about holding the nut or using two hands or anything, and you can get everything from the bottom. I built this connection here, and we fit it all into place by bolting up the exhaust and then tacking this in place, and now I have to remove it so that I can weld the top because it can't get in there where the oil pan is. So what we wanted to accomplish was we just wanted this clamp style fitting here to clamp onto there to make this removable, but the pipe is too small and this isn't going to work. Just can't make it work. So what I did instead was I made a flange system here. So I still use that insert I had before, but all I did was I just put this flange on either end of the pipe and on the insert. So we've got our 3 bolts that are going to bolt it on, and those are going to be the same size as the ones up top, so we want everything the same size. So that's all 3/8. Then this piece here comes out. So this over here is the driver's side. This sleeve, so this sleeve goes in here, and this is going to help hold everything together too when you're assembling it, and you just kind of mock everything up, and then you just start inserting your bolts and everything. But we want to make sure that we don't get this mixed up, so we got this little notch put in here, and we have that notch in all 3, so that when we put it back together, we're not going to get this mixed up, and then it's not going to go together right. Now it's going to be easier to take out this exhaust pipe and then reassemble it, because the way it was before, when you've got that bolted on there, it's pretty hard to manipulate this thing up into the front end here. And then that flange, direct center, front of the vehicle, easy to get at, splits the sides. The idea is you want all these components that you can install them and uninstall them easily and repeatably. For some reason, this engine didn't have any exhaust manifold gaskets. There wasn't one on the passenger side. We've removed the driver's side here as well, and there wasn't a gasket on this side either. Don't know why, but we're going to put new gaskets in here and seal that up. And we want to get down in there as best we can and clean up those surfaces, install the gasket, and use anti-seize on all the bolts so that it'll go on good and it'll come off good in the future. Just an FYI, if you want to try and get that manifold out through the top here, this is the space you're dealing with. This kind of hard line in the way that you might have to remove. If you try to get it through the bottom, you would have to remove the front drive shaft. Here it is after the exhaust is installed and the oil filter is on. So we had to put that exhaust on first, and then we could screw in that oil filter. That was where we welded the nuts to the exhaust manifold on the passenger side, because there's no room. And here on the driver's side, this is where we have the T-bolts hang down, and then we install our nuts. We have our center connection right underneath the oil pan here. We have our connection just after the transmission bracket support. And lastly, we have our last connection here at the end of the muffler. Idea being is that now this exhaust is removable when we have to remove it for whatever reason. Remove it, repair it, get it out of the way for other repairs, whatever the case may be.